Story 1. The dead internet theory becoming true. Before artificial intelligence, it sounded far-fetched. But social media sites using artificial intelligence bots to drive traffic, and most of the interaction becoming fabricated to drive up value, is something that definitely can be done now. At that point, how do we know if our posts, pictures, videos are getting interacted with by real people? Does it even matter as long as it seems real? Edit. As some have pointed out, I've been duped. Look at the original poster of this question. It's a bot. Basically, it's already happening. Story 2. I try to just live my life and forget about it, but the United States government has literally declassified files that show in the 1960s the Central Intelligence Agency was considering false flag attacks on American soil so that we could blame it on the Cubans and go to war. So, if that's where the bar has been shown to be, you can drive yourself crazy thinking about all the other stuff. Story 3. I think that every word number username Reddit account created in the last year is a bot or troll. Story 4. Microplastics are the new lead, and there's something about them which we don't yet understand, which is causing irreparable brain damage to everyone. Story 5. Old Reddit conspiracy post below. Always love to see it and more people need to know. The song TikTok, as performed by Kesha, was written by a guy named Benny Blanco. Its lyrics include the line, "We kick them to the curb unless they look like Mick Jagger." That's a little bit strange, right? Mick Jagger wasn't exactly at the height of his attractiveness when the piece in question came out. Stranger still, it wasn't the only popular song to paint the man in a pleasant light. Moves Like Jagger, performed by Maroon 5, was released at around the same time, and Benny Blanco also had a hand in writing that one. This is where things start to get creepy. The song The Time, Dirty Bit, as performed by the Black Eyed Peas, features the following phrase, "All these girls, they like my swagger. They calling me Mick Jagger. I be rolling like a stone." It was written by John DeNicola, who used to produce the music for a band called Kara's Flowers, although you might know them better by their current name of Maroon 5. The song Heart and Soul, as performed by the Jonas Brothers, contains a verse that ends with "making mistakes," but that won't matter if you can swag like old Mick Jagger. Antonina Armato wrote the piece, and she is managed by Downtown Music Publishing. Care to guess who else they manage? Here's a hint. It rhymes with Balloon 5. This web of connections extends all throughout the recording industry, but one thing remains unclear. What's the link back to Mick Jagger himself? There must be something, because if you have a look at Google Trends, you'll see that his popularity spiked with the release of each song. The only time in recent memory when it has been higher is during a period in March of 2014, when his girlfriend died. Some people have suggested that the man's name is just easy to rhyme with swagger, but popular usage of the word, in reference to something other than a walking gait, came about after the aforementioned songs had hit the airwaves. In other words, Jagger prompted swagger, not the other way around. Why does there seem to be a cabal of artists trying to artificially inflate the performer's appeal and popularity? What benefit is there in promoting an aging rock star? Who is actually behind this odd trend? In order to answer those questions, we need to turn to Vivendi. This is a company which owns a lot of stuff. Their subsidiaries include Dailymotion, Ubisoft, Gameloft, and the Universal Music Group. The Rolling Stones signed to Universal Music in 2008. In 2010, all of the songs listed above were released. Look at those Google Trends again. 2008 marked Mick Jagger's lowest ever dip in popularity, and the slump continued until February of 2010, right after TikTok became the most popular song on the radio. In September of that same year, the Rolling Stones re-released their Rare concert movie, securing the #1 spot on 4 different countries' charts, the US and the UK being 2 of them, second place on 4 more, and a double platinum certification in Canada. Strangely enough, though, the only other place besides the United States where platinum status was achieved was in France, which is where Vivendi is located. What if all of this was carefully planned and executed? What if there's a shadowy organization that's intent on promoting Mick Jagger for their own profit? What if I made all of this up on a whim and just found whatever tenuous evidence I could to support it? TLDR, Mick Jagger is a puppet of the recording industry. Story 6. I do firmly believe that there is an absolute ton of organized human trafficking that spans across the wealthy ruling class. I am pretty convinced that when you are ultra-rich, you need to find more extreme forms of entertainment, so I definitely think clubs like the ones portrayed in the Hostel franchise, as well as Squid Game, definitely exist. Story 7. The generation wars and racism are encouraged by the wealthy, so we don't focus on class warfare instead. Story 8. The government conducts testing on humans that we are not aware of. Look at the DDT testing, the radiation cornflakes, the experiments on the mentally ill. Every decade, they will admit to something they did 50 years ago and then say, but we don't do that anymore. Yeah, right. Story 9. I'm more disturbed by a theory that is the opposite of a conspiracy. Absolutely no person or group has the power to intentionally address large-scale systemic problems. I don't think it is even possible to obtain or maintain that level of power. Trying to make big changes just destabilizes your power structure, and you lose your grip. Climate change and the like cannot be meaningfully addressed because we are not capable of organizing enough to make it happen, and we never will be. I think humanity as a whole may be an uncontrollable force of nature, incapable of self-determination. Story 10. The United States government has knowingly and systematically been eroding education and healthcare and supporting poor health to make its citizens uneducated, overweight, and unwell, thus easier to control. Story 11. That the government uses Reddit bots to, among other things, generate accounts and keep an eye on the American populace is to keep a pulse on the American people and shut down anyone who gets too close to the truth. They make posts exactly like these to reach an audience beyond r/conspiracy and see what the general populace of Reddit thinks about it. Almost everyone is on AskReddit. Everyone knows things about the government and their shady dealings. It's common knowledge by now that the Central Intelligence Agency funded the war on drugs, on the side of drugs, and murdered Gary Webb when he tried to report on it, framing his death as a suicide. But the majority of Americans would rather stay silent, complacent, and comfortable. It is hard and painful to rise up against your government, so they keep us comfortable while they erode our freedoms until we are reliant on the government to survive. Could you imagine revolting against a tyrannical government if they had majority access to food, water, guns, and healthcare? Anyway, the way to spot these is to see how old the accounts are, their karma, and the amount of activity. For instance, the OP has existed for 2 months, made 2 posts only in the last 8 hours, and has almost zero activity. You're telling me someone made a Reddit account 2 months ago and hasn't posted or commented anything since then? Not even applying a photo or avatar. Adorable coffee doesn't mean anything, and no one I know makes a username with a 4-digit number at the end unless it's a throwaway account. You know, the kind that might be used for bots, for posts that you don't want people seeing you frequently ask. The TLDR of all this is that your government has been spying on you since the Patriot Act. No, they're not spying on you specifically 24/7. But you know that by now, they have AI rigged up to automatically flag suspicious keywords and place your account on a watch list. We stopped being the land of the free the moment we signed away our right to privacy. Your phone listens to you every second of the day. All they have to do is decide to start monitoring you from it. You know it does. Everyone's seen ads displayed based on something you talked about wanting. This will only become apparent when America eventually decides they've had enough of the tyranny. The slow frog will die, for it fails to notice the rise in temperature before it boils alive. Story 12. This won't be seen, but I truly believe with my entire heart that a lot of fake, dumb conspiracies are made to invalidate actually true conspiracies. Story 13. I believe Ferrero Rocher are not fit for an ambassador's ball. They are secretly made from common Nutella. Story 14. That there is a whole other level of wealthy, powerful people above the public figures we know. Like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg are just at the waterline of this proverbial iceberg. The world and our lives are literally their entertainment, and they are powerful enough to remain perpetually anonymous and above everyone, with technology decades ahead of what we are even aware of. Like, they are so above the rest of us that they do not even care about playing politics because laws literally do not apply to them. Money will never be an issue for thousands of generations of their descendants. Our struggles are so trivial that they are basically living in another dimension of reality. I suspect that Epstein Island and the Panama Papers were the barest, tiniest, most microscopic fracture of half a nanosecond glimpse into their world, which is why those were hushed up so readily and efficiently and barely touched by investigators since. Story 15. Major oil companies like Exxon knew full well the dangers of climate change for decades, but have kept on misleading the public and influencing policy to protect their own profits despite knowing better. A Harvard-led analysis found that ExxonMobil's internal research accurately predicted climate change. Story 16. I very much doubt that MKUltra ended. It's probably not still called that, but it had a history of being passed around from organization to organization within the government. Likewise, it's very curious how long it went on. Various agencies investigated all sorts of unconventional projects back in the day. And one by one, all of those programs were shut down in relatively short order as it became clear they were fruitless endeavors. MKUltra continued that we know of for decades. There must have been something, some breadcrumb trail, some inkling of proof of concept at a minimum, that made all of those people, researchers and whoever was funding the project, say, yeah, let's keep trying. Story 17. Flight 93 was brought down by United States missiles. The idea that the passengers took control of the cockpit and safely landed it was fabricated to support nationalistic sentiment, which worked. Absolutely terrifying. Story 18. The world is secretly being run by toddlers with flashlights. That is right, the Illuminati is real. I joke, but seriously, America is no longer a representative democracy. We are an oligarchy and have been for a long time. The powers that be are keeping the illusion of democracy going, but they know who really holds the power. Story 19. US politics is awash in money from foreign actors, and billionaires from hostile nations have more say in the process than the citizenry of the United States. Story 20. Many conspiracy theories are created or supported by governments to appear absurd, so that anything labeled as a conspiracy theory is automatically discredited. This means that the genuine ones can hide in plain sight, and people dismiss the evidence as the fabrication of wild conspiracy theorists. Story 21. That my town intentionally plowed too far into my yard this winter so that all the salt and sand would kill everything there. They did this so I'd agree to the sidewalk that they want to put in. Or perhaps I'm just extremely paranoid. Story 22. The oligarchy has known that the production of their products is destroying the planet's environment since the 1960s, and they don't care about it. They have colluded to avoid paying the true cost of their production so they can take their money to the grave as they burn the planet. Eat the rich. Story 23. A scary psychological truth more frightening than any conspiracy theory is that believing in one conspiracy theory makes you much more susceptible to believing in another. Eventually, you might find yourself living in an alternate reality where it is easier to believe that a school shooting was staged rather than admitting you might be wrong. Seriously, everyone has tendencies to believe in conspiracy theories, but indulging in them for entertainment is not only a waste of time, but potentially dangerous. Conspiracy theories are directly responsible for shootings, bombings, death threats to innocent people, and even the Holocaust, which has its roots in conspiracies about Jewish people and the protocols. Story 24. Fine art is essentially an industry for money laundering. A personal conspiracy theory I have is that if mermaids are real, they are being kept and farmed by the elite as a delicacy and for sexual purposes. Story 25. Modern medicine, particularly pharmacology, is designed to keep people alive, nothing more. It is in their interest to keep people sick and addicted to medication. Story 26. We have the secret for unlimited power generation, but the oil and electricity companies do not want that allowed. Story 27. There is a small subset of wealthy individuals who engage in small-scale chess games with people's lives, somewhat like the Illuminati, but on a more local scale. Story 28. I don't know if it is one conspiracy, but I think the first one was that there is no conspiracy, that the world is, in reality, lazy and chaotic, and all cover-ups we hear about are like projects that never got fruition or backing from the higher-ups. The add-on to this conspiracy is that conspiracies are created by the government to keep people sane and happy. As religion slowly is losing its grip on society, so is the belief in higher meaning. Most people need God or gods or space lizards or the Illuminati or whatever. Kind of that saying, if God did not exist, it would be necessary to create him. But people also need a living belief. They need miracles to happen today, or the conspiracy to be ongoing right now. And that is where the government comes in. Oh, the scariest? That parasitic aliens are secretly taking over human beings.